Never thought my 35 male life would become a train wreck after all these years of blissful married life. We have been together for 8 years, 6 years married. She 32 female was closer to my parents than I am. Our marriage was perfect and the sex was great. Granted that there were some lean periods now and then, but we always managed to find our way back to each other with renewed effort and steadfastness. Both of us were in high-paying jobs and there were no problems financially. The only recurring argument that we used to have was in regards to having kids. I always wanted to start a family with her. Coming from a big family myself, I couldn't wait to start my own. She, however, maintained that she wasn't comfortable taking on a parenting role so soon in her life. Of course, I respected her opinion. She had certain aspirations in her professional front and she needed time and space to establish herself. Something she would lack if she got pregnant so soon. 3 years back, she got a career-changing promotion and I was extremely happy for her. She had sacrificed a lot for her career and therefore it was all the more special when her efforts were rewarded. This, however, took a toll on our relationship. Her new role came with more responsibilities. I found her constantly exhausted and distant. She often stayed back late and even used to take official trips on weekends. Our intimacy hit an all-time low. We only had sex when I initiated it, and that too very rarely, as she mostly excused herself with some reason or the other. This made me frustrated, but I stopped making any advances from my end after a point. In hindsight, I realized that she never stopped caring for herself even when the sex was zero. Be it revamping her wardrobe, hitting the gym often, and dressing up regularly. I respected her too much to think that she would do something as low as sleeping outside the marriage. It never occurred to me even once. When I found it, it was completely by accident. My phone was low on charge and I picked hers to make a call. Her phone was nearby, though I didn't know her pattern. My wife was asleep and I didn't want to wake her up. To this date, I don't know what spurred me to do it, but I took her phone by the sides and held it tilted against the light. Dimly I could make up the swipe pattern of her fingers, which I replicated. I was surprised that it actually worked. Ignoring the guilty feeling, I opened up her WhatsApp messenger. There was nothing on it and I felt a pang of shame for a moment. I closed it and then opened up her Facebook Messenger. My whole life came tumbling down. I found it all there: 13 months of endearing texts, sweet nothings, shared reminiscences, and promises to meet up for sex. She had an intense emotional and sexual affair going on with her boss ever since she had been promoted. They had done it everywhere, on his car, on his house, on office trips, and even in his private cabin at the office. I literally went numb with pain. I wish I had confronted her then and there, but somehow my mind stopped working. I just sat there on the couch like a zombie, and I still remember her waking up and getting ready for the office with that coy look on her face, humming and whistling like a teenager going on a date. I just sat there like a frozen doll. The whole week went in a haze as I still couldn't work up the courage to confront her, and yet with each passing day I felt something die in me little by little. My chat with my best friend helped me a little and I finally broke the news and confronted her. I had imagined that she would break down, apologize to me, and offer to work on our marriage. I had entertained the possibility of us taking MC. Yet, none of that happened. She did break down briefly with tears and apologize for the hurt that they had caused me. Only after she said they did I realized the enormity of the situation. They were truly sorry for the hurt that they had caused. It was never their intention to hurt anyone and that they had wanted to open up about the same for a long time, but she thought that I wasn't ready for it. I begged and cried like a child to make her stay, but she was all set. In my pettiness and desperation, I even threatened to complain about them at her work. It was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. After that, there was simply no hope for reconciliation and she broke all contacts with me and only communicated via her lawyer. The divorce only happened 6 months later, after which she promptly moved in with him. I didn't contest her and the settlement was fair for both of us as she too was gainfully employed. They are married now, and the other day I was checking out her FB, which I admit I do regularly. They had posted a happy pic captioning that she is now pregnant, which was strange as she never wanted to start a family with me when I had been married with her for years. I just don't understand anymore. I had grown more and more miserable day by day. I tried dating, but it just doesn't work for me anymore. I had never been as happy as I was during the first few years of our marriage when we were simply infatuated with each other. I wish I could go back in time and change things, even though I don't know what I could do differently. Updates: I have uninstalled all my social accounts except the professional network. The temptation to peep in was just too much, and I agree that it is preventing me from moving on. I cheated on my husband and don't know where to go from here. I have been married for 6 years. My husband and I are both 28 years old. We knew each other in high school, but did not date until after. My husband is an incredible man. Kind, selfless, caring, hilarious, and the life of the party. Something I noticed about him right away is that he had a much lower sex drive than me. Because he was also my best friend, that seemed a small price to pay for the love and companionship we shared. It definitely hurt my feelings when I'd initiate sex and get turned down, but we talked about this a lot. And he said it was due to being tired from work. I understood, because I'm tired from work too. About 3 years into our marriage, during a particularly dry spell, I accidentally walked in on him jacking off in the bathroom, scrolling through Reddit's Gone Wild sub. I was really upset, because I'd just been turned down for sex moments earlier. It brought back a memory from when we'd first started dating, when I was using his computer and a bunch of porn came up. We were 17, I wasn't a porn user, and when I asked him about it, he swore up and down it was because his roommate borrowed his computer. To be clear, at this point in time, he knew that I was not a fan of porn. My views have shifted since then, and he knows that, as we've watched together occasionally. But he even had his roommate come to me and apologize, so I figured he was being truthful. Fast forward 6 years to the bathroom incident. I'm upset because after remembering the first incident, it becomes obvious that he was lying, and has been lying about the severity of his porn use for years. I bring this up and he admits that he lied about that and has continued to lie about using porn. I know it seems a small thing, but it felt like an enormous betrayal. I felt like I knew him inside and out. We grew up together, and knowing he felt he needed to lie to me and also that he prefers to get off without me broke my heart. I think that began a shift in our relationship. I eventually forgave him, but I stopped seeing him as my soulmate whom I could fully trust and knew everything about. I know that was a naive viewpoint from the start, but it felt like a huge change. I started feeling less desired by him, and even though he made somewhat of an effort to be more sexual with me, the whole situation just changed how I felt about our relationship, and I've been struggling ever since to figure it out. Last year, I got a new job in Georgia. We had been wanting to move somewhere warmer anyway, so we decided to give it a go. While here, I made a new friend. Most of my friends are men, and my husband is equally close with all of my friends, so it never felt out of the ordinary. However, I found myself becoming attracted to this friend, and I started to keep how close we were becoming a secret from my husband. I knew that it felt like I was being sneaky and a cheater even then, but it made me feel so good to be understood and comforted by someone who hadn't hurt me. Meanwhile, my husband is being loving and basically trying his best to make me happy. I grew more distant. I felt so guilty about this, and mentioned to my husband that I wasn't sure we should stay together anymore. I knew I wasn't treating him as well as he deserved. I was feeling a bit trapped and wishing I hadn't settled down so soon after high school. I'd never been with any other men before, although he had been with about 7 girls before me. I never held this against him, and it truly didn't bother me. It just made it so he didn't fully understand how I was feeling about not having those experiences. I wish I hadn't gotten married so young. I told him these things. I know it hurt him. He said he wanted to be with me no matter what. He said he'd be willing to let me sleep with someone else if it was that or me leaving him. I said I didn't want to do that. I have no interest in letting him do the same, and I don't feel it'd be fair otherwise. I also don't want my marriage to be like that, although I know the arrangement works for others. I end up flirting more and more with the new friend. We have sex once. The sex sucked. We are still friends, and I'm worried he's falling for me a little. I'm worried I'm attached because of the sex or because of the closeness of our relationship. I value the friendship, even though I know it's not healthy. I've been able to be so open with him in a way I no longer feel I can with my husband. The worst part is, I know I could just leave my husband. I love him so fucking much though. He is my best friend, other half, and a huge sense of security for me. I know I'm so selfish. I know that the way I love him isn't a good type of love. He deserves somebody so much better than me. I haven't told him that I cheated. I was cheated on multiple times in my first relationship and it fucked me up in so many ways. I'd rather leave and not tell him if it comes to that. I really don't know what to do. I want to salvage my marriage, and I know that if I told him he wouldn't leave, but that just makes me feel even worse. Do I have to be honest to make this right? Where do I go from here?